So good morning, everyone. Thank you all for joining us. We were just waiting on the last couple of people, so we just started a tiny bit later because it's sometimes a little bit difficult to get in and get everything set up. Thank you all for joining us today. We'll be hosting a webinar providing you guys with a little bit of information about the ADR Register. So Theresa will do a short presentation, and with us as well is Robert Tettelaar. He is chairman of the IC Council, so he'll explain a little bit about how we manage quality within the register and how we come to, for example, certification requirements. Like I said, it'll be short presentations. Afterwards, there'll be a Q&A. So primarily, it's an opportunity for you guys to ask questions, to get a feel for how these webinars work. And if you have any questions either about the ADR register or about mediation in these special times, then feel free to ask them. A little bit about me. My name is Giel. I work with Theresa at Global Network Group. Today I'm the host, which basically means if you have any questions, you can come to me. So we're doing the webinar today through Zoom, which means you can either use the chat or you can ask questions. So there's a dedicated Q&A button at the bottom of your screen. And if you click on that, the questions will go directly to me and I'll make sure that they get answered. So if you have any problems, then please just report them to me and I'll help you along the way. A small short formal notice, we have a code of conduct for webinars that I'm posting in the chat now. So if you want to have a look at that, that's fine. You can just click on the link. In general, if we just all stay polite and have a good discussion, you don't even have to look at it. That's it for me. So in order to keep it interesting, I think I'll give the microphone to Theresa, where she'll just give a short explanation about the ADR register. If you have any questions in between, just feel free to post them in the chat, or preferably just ask them through the Q&A section. We might not answer them immediately because there's a Q&A section at the end. So just be patient, but we will answer every single question that you have. Theresa?
Okay, great. Thanks, Giel. Morning, everyone. It's great to see all the names. There's a lot of names that I recognize. There's some of these that I don't recognize. Nice to see someone from Greece. I think I need to just also tell you that it's not just South Africa and Africa joining today. We have international people joining as well. Seeing that we are an international register, everyone that is English or using English language predominantly will be joining us. So we're not going to make referrals to specifically South Africa, but you can ask questions specifically to about countries' setups. So it's not a problem at all if you want to do that. The first thing is that I first want to check that everyone is okay. It's quite an unprecedented time. I'm normally one that I live in my lifestyle is quite self-isolated, so it's not really a problem for me. But then I do find myself at the end of each day sort of feeling a little bit anxious or, not sleeping well. So if there's anyone out there that really has a problem and needs someone to talk to, I'm not saying that I would be able to help you, but I can surely listen and get someone to help you if it comes to that. So please let us know if there's anything that we can do for you. I talk to some of my friends as well, and that's the only way sometimes we can vent and get rid of our frustrations in South Africa. And I see in Italy and those places, they also have the thing that at a certain time each day you go out and you scream and shout and bang stuff and play musical instruments to say thank you to the essential workers. But I find that in our area, it's actually more of a stress release than anything else, although we're very thankful for essential workers, but there is a bit of a stress release there. Also, I want to make you aware of our webinar. So Robert had the good idea to do the webinar, seeing that we can't really communicate the way we normally do. And we're hosting this series of webinars specifically to get everyone to start thinking out of the norm. And because life as we know it, everyone is telling us, life as we know it does not exist any longer. It's a whole new beginning for all of us, and we're all finding ways to make things work. So the questions that we are getting predominantly was, how do the registers work? So we decided to address that. Then we are addressing general things. We are looking at, on Saturday, we've got a webinar on creativity. You needn't be a mediator or a facilitator. It's a creative workshop or webinar on how to think differently, how to approach your clients differently, how can we approach life differently. So that's on Saturday. Giel will post the link to the webinars a bit later today, where you can register. It's all free of charge. Next week, we've got a trend forecaster. Yes, it's South African based, but he works internationally. His name is Dave Nemeth. He forecast this webinar is going to be about what's going to happen to businesses post-COVID. How is it going to change? How can we change our way of doing business to assist our clients? For instance, online mediation is going to be a big thing from here onwards. We've got someone that specifically is going to talk about online, how to set up online courses and training, and how to mediate online. That's a very big question. I've got someone, I think it was Amin, that's on this, that asked me that how would she actually read someone that's stonewalling the process in an online mediation. So we're going to get someone that's going to address all these questions for you. We also have softer links. We've got things at Feel Good, also self-help. So please keep on watching on our website. We will list the webinars, and please feel free to log in and join us on these. Specifically in South Africa, we've got someone that's going to be talking on the rule change in mediation, Rule 41A, and how it's going to affect us. Robert and the European team are also addressing a lot of the European questions on different webinars. So please just log in where you feel comfortable and follow us. That will be really great. So what we want to do is just take you through what ADR Register is, how we run it, how it works. And I first have to just, in short, explain that our parent company is called Global Network Group. And Global Network Group basically regulates informed bodies or regulates bodies that aren't regulated by government. So, for instance, we're looking at coaching. We've got a coaching register, which is called ICR Register. We've got an alternative dispute, ADR one, that is for the mediators, arbitrators, which you are part of. Then we've got one for hypnotherapists that is, strangely enough, it's not very huge in South Africa. In other parts of Europe it is. And we've got one for, as we call it, MC, which is for the maritime industry, for yacht brokers and people in maritime. But let's look at the ADR industry, and I'm going to take you through, I'm going to share a screen, which is, Giel, can you see this one? Yes. Okay, so
yeah,
this
I can see it. I'm pretty sure Robert can see it as well.
Okay, great. I just want to make sure, yesterday I shared the wrong page, so I just want to make sure I'm sharing the right one here. Okay, so on our website, you can basically find anything that you want to know. If there's something that you don't know that you want to know, you're welcome to contact us and we'll take you through it. Giel is also going to post at the end of the webinar, here's a document that is a lot more informative, general information sheet, ADR Register, that outlines everything that you really need to know. It takes you through from the beginning right to the end, who we are, what we are, how it works, our goals. So you will get a link to this that you can download and go through. But for now, I'm just going to take you, because it's easier and shorter, through the website. As I said, ADR Register is part of Global Network Group, and we certify ADR practitioners. So it's arbitrators, conflict coaches. Conflict coaches can also be part of the ICR Register, which is the coaches register. So you can be part of both. Mediators, negotiators. That is basically what we do, and we certify against ISO 9001. And just to give you an idea, that we are also audited against those criteria. So the fact, we'll get into the audit process now, but the fact that you have to send us documents for us to audit I know can be a bit frustrating to some of you, but in turn, we also get audited by Lloyd's against those criteria. So if we don't make sure that all the boxes are ticked, then we can also lose our registration, which is obviously something that we don't want. And in this time and age, I think it's quite important that we make sure that people that say they are mediators and arbitrators, facilitators, are indeed what they say they are. And that's why people do need to register, because it's not regulated. It's something that's not really regulated. So you need to register to be able to show your client a certificate at the end of the day that said, or says, I followed a course that's been certified, I am indeed a mediator, I've done so many hours, I am able to assist. We're finding that there are a few people out there saying that they are mediators just because they've got life skills. That does not mean that they are certified and accredited. So you can see everything is here. I'm going to jump to the agencies, as we call it. That is training providers. Most of the names that I saw on this list today have come to us via training providers, which are registered with us. You will find it under education. And these are the people that come to us with their training material. You can see everything is here. People that come to us with their training material, we look at it along, it comes to me, I make a recommendation, then it goes through to Robert and his team at the ICC Council. They look at it and they make very sure that the courses are indeed up to scratch, that it meets all the requirements, and that it's internationally recognized. So once it's there and you go through and you study through any one of these people, you will know that you are following a course that is internationally recognized. So that in short is just what an agency is. Robert will say a little bit more on that when he goes through, when we talk about the ICC Council. So for you as a practitioner, the main question I always get is, but what are the benefits? Why should I join ADR Register? And it's also, as I say, it's all on here, but I think the main thing is that our main benefit is basically that we are completely independent and objective. In other words, we don't do any training ourselves or present any training ourselves. We don't believe in doing that, because the moment you do that and then you accredit your own training, that doesn't say much. So we want to basically only accredit and register mediators as well as companies, and that's something that Robert will also just mention a bit more of. And when I say companies, I'm talking, say, for instance, law firms, people that have a few mediators under an umbrella. But you as an individual can also register your company with us if it is, it has in South Africa, we call it a SIPS registration. I'm not sure in Greece, for instance, what it would be, but you need to have a registration from your government that says it is an official and registered company.
Yeah, so it's usually referred to as Chamber of Commerce in international.
Yes, that's it.
So
thanks.
whatever that is locally, that's where you need to get an excerpt from.
Yeah. So that's one of the main benefits. The other benefit, obviously, is that there's only two companies in South Africa that are recognized by the International Mediation Institute. And I'm saying South Africa, but obviously we are international as well. So we are a recognized quality assurance program in South Africa by the IMI, as well as internationally. In South Africa, one of two, the Stellenbosch University is the other one, which gives us a bit of an edge, because the criteria that we measure our practitioners by is not only by the ISO criteria, but also by IMI criteria, which is international. That's the other big benefit that you have as being one of our practitioners, and that is that you can practice anywhere in the world, literally. 164 countries are part of ISO. It's the International Standards Authority, and you will then be able to practice anywhere in the world. If you have I'm not talking about bridging courses and stuff that you might have to take with regards to law, going to different countries. That will depend. But as a mediator, you would be able to, you know, then work once you've done the bridging courses. So all the benefits are here. It's very transparent. You can go through that, but I think that would be the main benefit to you. Let's just go to the entry requirements. Now, how we do it is we keep it very simple. We believe that we just keep it as two levels of practitioners. The one would be an associate and the one would be full. And the main difference between associate and full is basically experience. Once you've done your course and you've met with the criteria that we require, which I'll go to now, you are an associate mediator. You have 5 years on our register to go up to a full mediator. You will have to basically give us access to 15 client assignments. There's different ways of looking at it, which is all on this website. And if you do not do that in the 5 years, then unfortunately you fall off the register completely. What we look at when we measure you or ask for the audit is we look at different levels. Background audit is we need a letter of no criminal record. Specifically in mediation and arbitration, I think it's very important that people know that there is no hidden records that they don't know of. So we normally ask for a police clearance record that you can obtain at a police station, or a letter of good conduct. There's different ways of doing it. You're welcome to give me a call if you want to know which one will be better. And we require it, as you can see, for both. Yes, for associate and full. For associate level, we require 2 general letters of recommendation. That could be from people that you're working with, not your employer itself or family. It need not be issued by a client, because we are aware that you might not have clients yet. But if you're on the full level or apply on the full level, you do need to give us 2 letters of recommendation that are issued by clients. And please note that when I say audit, we really do audit. We do sometimes contact, or most of the time we do contact the clients to make sure that they actually exist. So it's not just a fact of drafting a letter and sending it through. Luckily, we've never had that, but we do actually audit the information that we receive. Here we get to the application. If you want a company, and again, as Giel said, the Chamber of Commerce will have to vouch or give us a certificate that you've got a registered company, then we also give you a profile that's linked to your personal profile, and that's free of charge. In South Africa, we don't ask for liability insurance at this point. It's optional. It's very pricey, and we are trying to find ways to make it more accessible to people in South Africa. In some of the other countries, yes, it's a definite yes that we need it. So just check with us which is, in your case, which is applicable. It gets to experience, as I said, we need your curriculum. Also, again, it's a scope related to curriculum. So I don't need from school years up. I basically need from when you started studying and what you're doing now to be able to verify a few facts. And if you go to a full status, then we start looking at, as I said, client assignments. Proof of prior education and training. We prefer that people have a minimum higher or university level to join us, but we are finding that there are people that have huge skills that don't necessarily have university level education. So we do look at it, and we do non-conformity decisions there, and then obviously you can join. Something that really sets us apart from other registers and bodies are the fact that we accredit and register the full scope of mediation, and I'll discuss that a bit further. But what we also then need for the audit process is that you will need to do a knowledge test, which is an online test based on the theory that you've done with your training provider. So it's not something new, it's not something that you don't know, it's all based on the material, the course material, say for instance, in our case, South Africa, of a berry, or, you know, so we work off that. And a skills test is quite important, and it's completely non-negotiable when you go from associate to full, where you have to show that you actually can mediate. And there are different ways of doing it, but we also look at role plays, videos that come in that are assessed by people in the field, and we work off that. So this, as you say, you can see how we verify different client assignments, clock hours. So that's all part of that. I just want to go through, we can look at Cpd requirements, it's all on it. I'll show you how to access your dashboard. You will be able to go in on there and add your own Cpd points, certification levels. We discussed that you can join as an individual or as a company. Obviously, we also have things like expelled, which Robert will discuss as part of our complaints and dispute system. Honorary practitioners, practitioners of excellence, suspensions. So we take everything quite seriously. It's not just a matter of joining. We do monitor the whole time. Okay, yeah, you can have a look and see that we, as I said, we literally cover the full spectrum of mediation. It's not just family law. We look at commercial, we look at absolutely the full spectrum. So there are main types that you also can join. You're either an arbitrator, a conflict coach, a mediator, or a court mediator, a family mediator. And as you can see there are little asterisks that explains exactly what you need to be if you want to qualify as one of them. Content master negotiator. For the honorary practitioners, you will see that also practitioners of excellence, but something that we have that other people don't really have, and that's subtypes. So why it's important to be registered with us is that you can actually click a box when you apply, and if you haven't done it and you want to still change it, just mail me, because I'll have to do that for you. So if you want to make sure that when people are looking for you or looking for a mediator, and your specialism, as you can see here, your content specialism is labor or religion, family, accounting, agriculture, or we've listed this, it's a very long list. It's actually longer than this at the moment. We just need to update it. If you feel that your specialism is in a financial side, obviously you will have to prove to me that you've got financial background, but then we can add it to your profile. So when people start looking online for a financial mediator or someone that is in real estate, they will find you very quickly. So please let me know if it's not on your tick box, then I can change it. Something that's also very important, specifically in mediation, is languages. So if you have a language specialism, also let me know. I mostly check the tick box English on our side, because it's important that people know that you can speak different languages. It's easier for people to mediate in the same language. So you can have a look at that. Just let me know. So you will, once you actually complete the form and apply, you will also then receive a mail. I'm just going to go through the process quickly. You will receive a mail that will tell you, thank you, and then you need to give us certain documents. And those are the documents that I've listed above. Once you've done everything, you will then be able to receive a certificate. We're seeing it through digitally. It's digitally, I'm backing with the word today, digitally signed. And you will receive that then via email, which you sign and send back to us. And I think, in short, that actually is it. I don't think I skipped anything. If I did, Giel would have told me. So, yes, please feel free to ask questions, and then I'm going to hand over to Robert because he's our chairperson of the ICC Council. So he oversees all of us as an internal measure. The external measure is Lloyd's, as I said, and Robert will make sure that we do everything the way it should be. So it's over to Robert.
Thank you, Theresa. Good morning, all. My name is Robert Tettelaar from the Netherlands. I'm the Managing Director of ICC Council. As a global network group, we work ISO-based, as explained by Theresa, and that means that we need to have a mechanism for impartiality and independency. And that's what the ICC Council is and what ICC Council does. We assure that all processes within Global Network Group are carried out correctly. It means in practice that we make a split between operational processes and the governance. And ICC Council is the governance. First, I want to state clearly what is certification. How do we see that? Certification, in our opinion, is awarding a quality mark to individuals and their companies and organizations based on an independent audit process against previously known and public criteria, which are, for obvious reasons, the same for everyone. The key word is an independent audit process, and that's what we try to assure. We want to make visible to the world that all processes are fully 100% impartial and independent. The purpose of this all is clear. It is a quality insurance to the market, to your clients. We want to provide clarity, certainty, and guarantees to market, to clients and other stakeholders, such as, for example, courts, governments, and professional bodies, etc. Everybody who will be presented with a certificate of competence must know for 100% that everything beneath it is controlled, is audited, and that the person or the organization did really meet all the criteria. In our industry, in the ADR industry, this is quite relevant because although in a lot of countries, governments ask a few things from mediators, basically it is a non-regulated market and a non-regulated profession. That means, in our opinion, that assuring quality is basically not about an internal discussions between the mediators, but about what are the expectations and the needs of the clients, and how can we as professional group assure that we meet the expectations and the requirements of clients. Because in short, to our opinion, without clients, there is no profession. So that's how we see it. ICC Council, as said, I'm in charge of it, but I'm not only the only one in the council. We have over 100 people involved. They're out of the industry, but they're also not involved in the industry. For example, they're experts on designing and operating knowledge tests, skills tests, expert on the field or accreditation and certification. So we have all kinds of people involved. We work committee-based. So for all the process, we work with different committees. And as said, over 100 people globally are involved in the ICC Council. Other things we do, we as Global Network Group has as core activity certification. That means we are not a training provider. We are not a member organization. The only thing we do is issuing certificates. That means we have a great interest in cooperating, for example, with training providers, and we accredit training providers. And there is a difference, in our opinion, between accreditation and certification. If we accredit an organization, that means basically we give over the right to issue certificates. So when we accredit a training provider, we say to the training provider, you can issue certificates of participation, certificates of education, which are a guarantee for us that the student did really meet the criteria, and the certificate is the thing we want to audit and to add into the personal file. So that's another thing we do. A third thing we do is taking care of complaints. For obvious reasons, it is possible for clients to file a complaint against a certificate holder, or, and yes, it occurs, we do handle complaints among certificate holders because, yeah, well, they're also human beings, and everyone knows that then we can have a struggle, a conflict, a dispute, and we try to handle that. We believe it is relevant that when taking care of complaints, we really find out what is the purpose of the man or woman or organization who is filing the complaint. Normally in the certification world, and when we're talking about certification for professionals, we talk about disciplinary sanctions only. And we have learned from the feedback from the clients, they like that, but it's not enough. Or sometimes they don't even want it. They simply say, listen, we have a dispute, a conflict about an invoice. We want arbitration on the amount or on the hours or whatever. So simply deliver that process to me. It means that we have a broader system for complaint handling. It's not only suitable for the classic disciplinary complaint handling, but we also provide internal investigation, arbitration, amicable settlement, mediation. So our process starts with finding out what is the real purpose of this complaint. Another relevant aspect of our work is, as said, we are operating in a basically global non-regulated sector. So it means that we have to mediate between the professional groups, our stakeholders, for example, governments, courts, and the practitioners. What are suitable criteria? If the question is, if we set criteria, are they accepted by the practitioners? Are they accepted, for example, by courts? Are they accepted by insurance companies? And that's also our work. We find out, we mediate, where are we going, where do we need to be in between? So the certification and everything behind it is accepted. Because without acceptance, basically it's nothing, because there is no obligation to certify. So we must deliver added value. Relevant is that we think processes are the key word in this. We have a specific document for practitioners that's called Process and Procedure Requirements. In short, it requires that you deliver your mediation process or your arbitration process according to dedicated procedures, and you are free to select one. So for example, you're a mediator in South Africa and you're also registered with SAM, and SAM is providing procedures. Then we say, oh, that's nice. That's an accepted, recognized professional body. We allow you to work against those procedures. But suppose you do an international mediation and you mediate between a party in South Africa and Australia, or South Africa and the Netherlands. It might be the case that the clients say, we don't want to work in accordance with procedure A or B, but we want X, Y, Z. We say you have to guarantee to clients that you work in accordance with your role, your process, and procedures, and you have to deliver upfront information: what role, what process, what procedure. It means that we, as ADR Register, do not deliver compulsory templates. We don't say this is the mediation agreement set by ADR and you have the obligation to use it. We say select a procedure, select a process, or develop one yourself and follow that. And I think that's relevant. And we see that a lot of practitioners, registered practitioners with us, really do like this approach, because they can deliver differently against other not with us registered mediators and other practitioners. Well, in short, this is what I want to mention about ICC Council. If you have any question about this, feel free to ask it right now or do it later over the email, set up a private chat. For example, if you want to know more about the certification for companies, which include all the registered practitioners within a company or an organization, feel free, and I'm happy to answer all questions.
Okay, thank you, Robert. So that was the two presentations that we had scheduled for today. So just a general overview of the ADR register, a more deep dive into how we do quality and complaints, and things that are quite important for certification, kind of the fundamentals. As promised, we're now going to get towards a Q&A section where some people have already asked questions, particularly about the court system and insurance. So I will run through them one by one. And just answer them with Theresa and with Robert, and perhaps if I have any input, I'll share that as well, to make sure they get answered. If you have any other questions, or based on what we say, you might have different questions. At the bottom of your screen, there's a Q&A button with a little speech bubble. If you click on that, you can just ask any question that you might have, and we're happy to answer all of them. And then towards the end of the webinar, we'll do a poll. But first, we'll get to any questions and we'll answer them live so that we can share them with everyone. Because a lot of them are really interesting. So I'll just start from the beginning. The webinars that we are hosting now, so Melissa asked if they're open for everyone. So what we really want to do is we want to share the knowledge and we want to get the word out there. And we also want to invite speakers. And so we want there to be something in it for them. So yes, anyone who wants to join, whether you be a mediator or some of our more generic webinars where it's more about running a business, they're open to everyone. You don't have to be an ADR registered mediator, and they're free. So you can just sign up. Anyone who you think might find the webinar interesting, feel free to send them the link. They can sign up, and we're happy to have them. So that was just a quick one. Karen asked, and a couple of people have been talking about that in the chat, how we integrate with the court system in South Africa. And whether, that's the first question, whether the ADR register is available to courts, because it seems that it's a hit and miss in between the different districts where the register might be known, where it might not be, and especially the Western Cape or the Eastern Cape. Yeah, the Western Cape, if you're not registered with FAMED, apparently the courts don't take notice of you, so you have to have that specific registration. So I think Theresa and maybe a little bit Robert as well, you guys might want to give a bit of explanation about that, and also in general how we work together with the court system.
It's a difficult one. We've been talking to Justice Department, and because I would suggest, let's start at the beginning. I would suggest that they say in theory they've got a court annexed mediator list. If you go onto their site, the list is there. Although I don't think it's really active, we've been trying to communicate with people in Department of Justice. I've had numerous meetings, and they've got different, each department within that, or each office within that has got different ideas. But yes, in short, they are aware of us. We are negotiating with them to make sure that you are all known to them. But I would suggest that you also join them on their list. When they call for a list again, join them, go through the whole process, because we can't ensure at this point that they, that you can sit back and you think that we've given them the list and they're aware of it, which is our aim. We would like to do that. But I think the most important thing is make sure that you get onto that list yourself. We are in negotiations with some of the other bodies. Unfortunately, I can't go into detail and I can't mention names, but we are in negotiations with some of the other bodies as well, the other stakeholders, to ensure that people that are joined or have joined ADR Register can do mediation and need not necessarily be linked to one of the other bodies. I know it's quite costly. I think that's one of the questions I just saw. Do I have to be a member of all these different bodies? It's actually very interesting to see how many bodies there are in mediation and how many bodies you need to be part of. Whereas, just a quick comparison, when we look at the coaching side, it's completely different. There's a lot less factions, if we call it that, or parties that they need to be part of. So we're trying to find a way to make it easier for you to register with one or two only, and that's it. And see, you know, how we can assist you not only in being known or being found, but also not having to pay all those extra costs. So we are, just be aware, we are in negotiations. I can't go into more detail than that at the moment, but in the next 3 to 6 months, you will be receiving detail on what we are actually doing to make it easier on you, not having to spend more money and being part of these bodies, but still have the same coverage, if I can put it that way. I see Melissa to see that it's not active, the quarter next mediation process. So yes, they did. When I visited them, well, a few times, they say the list is there and it's active, but I know it's not really active. Certain courts are more active in certain areas. The East Strand, I know, is a bit more active. So if you want to get involved more in the court mediation side, just drop me a note and I'm going to see how I can hook you up with people that are active in certain areas. Because it seems that each court has got their own idea of where to find the mediators at the moment. But we're trying to assist them in establishing a national footprint in South Africa.
Yeah, and so it must also be said, and I think that's internationally the case, working together with courts is always an interesting challenge, and it sometimes is also custom work. So unless it's very much ingrained into the court system, as it might be in the Netherlands, there may not necessarily even be many different systems to register. And so it is very useful if you send Theresa an email with just your situation, then she can help you out. And then we can also see, okay, maybe the situation's changed. And some people are asking, you know, working together with other bodies. That's just something we're talking about now, about how to do. Because our goal with being a certification body is we just want standards against which we can certify. In this sense, you know, things like being a federation or an organization that necessarily promotes mediation and does political activism is not necessarily, if you look at it from a traditional role, in our scope. Our scope is more set quality standards together with a market and certify against them. And so what we really want to do, and that's kind of our goal in every single country, as there's also some people from Greece, is to work together with the people promoting mediation so that we can maintain the quality, they can do the promotion, and together you get that synergy to promote it to the market.
That's a nice balance then.
So just the next question, online CPD. So obviously it's difficult now to organize CPD courses. So I think obviously that's what we plan to do with the webinar, but I think Theresa, you can offer some short explanations about how we want to do that and what courses we're going to do and how that qualifies and for what that qualifies as CPD.
We've got different ways of allocating or looking at CPD. And if you go to the website again, I'll just quickly share that screen. You can see that there's different ways of doing it. So I know travel is a big problem, well, now for all of us. So have a look at this. We're not that prescriptive or more prescriptive than some of the other people are. We're actually a bit more relaxed with regards to that. But there's different categories, and one point is 1 clock hour. So if you write an article, if you do a peer review or have someone do a peer review, there's official education and training. Obviously, is something that we need to look at. At this point, we are finding that training providers are going to be doing a lot of online work. So we will acknowledge that. Conferences, fairs, peer groups, seminars, meetings, workshops, the webinars that we're hosting now that are theme related, obviously that is there to empower you. And I'm not talking about be a better person or those things. That's not going to be seen as CPD. But if you attend, for instance, the webinar on Rule 41A in South Africa, that you could use that. And as I say, facilitate, you know, go out there and find people, speak about mediation, your research, your mentoring, coaching, all of that can fall under professional activities. PR and communications, write an article, share some of your reports, record interviews that you're doing. And in public interest, you can see this, the moment that you start exercising or showing your presence at public functions and tasks, you'll pick up points. You know, I think it's all about how how far you are prepared to actually put yourself out there, especially now with the fact that we can't move. We need to start looking a bit differently at how we're going to promote ourselves.
Yeah, and so one of the things we definitely want to do with CPD is not just focus on, you know, mediation techniques, but also focus on techniques to run your business. So it was quite an interesting discussion just now about the court system, and that's obviously the reason we want that is so that we can get jobs from the court system to work as a mediator. But one of the more important things, and that's something we definitely also have to look at in South Africa, is a court system is not a holy grail for jobs. It's definitely going to come from there, but there's a far larger a body of assignments and body of work that can be accessed. And so I'm from quite a privileged position where working in the Netherlands as well, I can see what happens even if we have a formal registration and accreditation system for courts, where it works, at least administratively, somewhat well, in that it hands out assignments. And even there, it's a very small percentage. And so what we really want to focus on, and we definitely want your help with ideas for that, is how are we going to promote mediation, and how are we, through the mediators, how are you guys going to create a groundroots effort to promote that mediation? Because that's where a lot of the work will come from. And so that's definitely one of the things we want to focus on with CPD. And just administratively, the CPD points you can just enter into your dashboard. So there's just a little form.
Because that's actually something, sorry, then I wanted to still share and I didn't. I'm just quickly going to go back, if it's okay with you, Giel. Okay, so I'm back at the website. You all, when you join, you get a login code to access your own dashboard. I'm just going to use Giel's login. Okay, so you've got a drop down, you go to your dashboard, and that's quite important. As I mentioned earlier, if you really want people or really want to be visible and findable, you need to make sure that your profile is up to date. Some of the input you can do yourself, but some of it I have to do for you. So you will have to let me know, and I really don't mind doing it. You can edit your own personal profile. You can add detail in there, your telephone numbers, different emails, your address, postal addresses. You can change your social media links, everything. You can do a lot of the stuff yourself.
Yeah. So what's important there as well is the way people usually use your profile is they use it as validation. So they might find you somewhere online, and they won't necessarily search for mediators through a register. But what we see happening a lot is people coming to this question saying, I want to work together with this mediator. Is he certified, and how do you guys make sure that he knows what he's doing? And so that's one of the important things why you need to market your profile. So if someone comes on there's no picture, there's no text, and there's just a certificate. Yeah, I mean, they might find someone else, because at the end of the day, even if just reflecting on my own behavior, if you log into a web shop, you look at the one with the most reviews, with the profile that looks the best. And so that's definitely something we want to recommend to you, because it's part of that marketing effort. Same with having a website, having some Facebook, these basic things, it's just important to have, and they're not that difficult to do anymore. So yeah,
yeah, that's why it's also important to let me know if you have certain specialisms. Because then I will have to click that for you, but I can do that with the greatest of pleasure. Because when people look, I take it for myself. If I am in the agricultural field and I've got a dispute, I'm rather going to take someone that understands agriculture and is not a tech whiz, but it's someone that understands agriculture and will be able to assist me. So let me know, because I click all of that, and that's how people actually get work, by being visible and findable in those specialisms bracket.
Yeah, so just in between, we have a lot of questions open, so we're just going to work through the list, but we will get to all of the questions in a second. So the next one was for the transition from associate to full. What type of information must we submit for those 15 client assignments for 2 years? So I know there's a form on the website, obviously, but what other things do you look at when you transition someone from associate to full, and how do you kind of handle that?
Okay, so as we said, we obviously there's different criteria. We're going to need extra letters or 2 letters of recommendation from your client. So you will have to prove that you've done 15 client assignments, 15 plus client assignments. How we do that is that we will ask you to send through at least some of your files. Obviously, it is very confidential. We you know, it's not as if we go and broadcast all the information in it, but we need to be able to verify that you have mediated cases, be it successfully or not successfully. That's not really the thing. It needs to prove that you have done mediation, 15 cases minimum. And then, as I said, we will need to see that we have client recommendations, at least 2 people. And you will have to do a skills test, and that's one of the big things that we require to be able to do that extra tick to say yes, you are a mediator and you can mediate. And the best way for us to see that is for you to actually do a mediation. It could be an actual mediation. The best is to normally just get people that will sit with you, do a role play, as you've all done in courses, record that. It's got to be a minimum of 40-45 minutes. Send that through to us. We have assessors, trained assessors that look at it, and they assess according to a certain criteria. It's not loose and fast. They've got a set list of criteria that they look at. There's an extra cost involved in that, obviously. But once you've done that, at least we know, yes, you can mediate. Based on that, we will make a recommendation. Yes, it's fantastic, you go to full, or no, we feel you still need to do the following. But it's very specific, and you will get notes from everyone. So I hope that answers your question.
So another question is about liability insurance. So with there not being or being very limited liability insurance for mediation in South Africa, for especially also with the council, what do we offer with regards to liability insurance? So kind of, you know, with handling of complaints, and how is that different from having an actual liability insurance? So what do we offer that liability insurance does not, and vice versa?
Robert, would you be able to do that?
Yes, no problem. In general, we require a proof of a liability insurance. However, we do understand that in a few countries this is not available or not possible. So we have a rule to exempt on this. For now, we have learned that in South Africa it is difficult or not possible to get a good policy. So an exempt is in place.
No, but the question is more about, so when you get liability insurance, you're, for example, covered from damages, and what services do we offer that are kind of similar to that? So it's, for example, how do we handle a complaint, and what's the risk of not having liability insurance, and what services do we offer with that?
Oh,
so
okay.
Yeah.
I didn't understand that correctly. Well, if we talk about disciplinary action, the benefit of having insurance like that is that you will be assisted by people from the insurance company, which might be helpful. So that's one issue. The other issue is, suppose that we go for an arbitration or a mediation, and you have to pay back. In general, it is covered by the insurance. So I think it is very wise to have an insurance policy, because you can never be sure that a claim is rejected. And in fact, on a global basis, we see that, well, there are not a lot of claims successful, but you have successful claims, and then it's very, very good to have a policy like that.
Yeah, so what we definitely try to do with the complaints procedure is not just go straight, for example, to arbitration, but, you know, try and listen and hear everyone out. And we do sometimes see that the complaints may either be only about money or otherwise. So the other side, so it's more about getting your right. Definitely, you know, we can help there. But in general, what a liability insurance does is it covers you financially. And so that's quite important. That's just something as a register that we can offer, because if a court says you have to pay an X amount of money, yeah, that is a private register, no matter whose name is on the title, they're not going to help there. So that's kind of the difference. So we can help in that process, but at the end, if you don't have insurance, to some extent, it is out of our hands. If you have an interesting question from Elisma, if you lose your registration, can you re-register at a later time? And then I think it's also interesting to say, for example, if she runs out of the associate period, what she has to do there, but just generally how we handle that.
Yes, you can. You can re-register. Sorry, Robert, did you want to jump in on that?
No, it's okay, Theresa. You can answer the question.
Yes, no, you can. You can definitely re-register. If you go from, as I said, you've got 5 years to go from associate to full. If you do not do that in those 5 years, you cannot reapply at all. But you can, am I correct in saying that, Robert? Eh? But you can at any time re-register in the 5 years, but on an associate level then.
Yep. Okay, let's have a look. That was done. So Karen, just quickly to confirm that, because I see you said you didn't receive your certificate, so that should come soon. And the one thing I want to add there is we send the certificates online. That's one thing I think Theresa mentioned shortly. And so once you're certified, once your page is online, so your page on the website, it'll also have reference to your certificate. So you can also obviously always share that website. And if you have any specific questions about registration, just email Theresa after the webinar, because obviously we don't want to discuss them too much publicly, because they're obviously closed files. We try to handle it.
Sorry, Giel, if you don't have a certificate or want a new certificate, just let me know. Then I can just send it through to you quickly. It's not a problem. But it is online.
So a question from Greece. Can you be a mediator? So can you be registered and certified if you don't have a company? So obviously what he's faces, and that's the case in more countries where it's not an as established order mediation. There aren't that many companies, so they just work on their own. So is that possible? How do we handle sole proprietorship in these types of countries? I think that's an interesting question as well for Robert, because in theory it is allowed, but there's just some specifics about national legislation that might be interesting.
Yes, but I think this is a little bit too much in depth for now. It's difficult to explain, and you have a lot of, well, there are a lot of different. So if we want to discuss this, I'd rather pass it on to a private chat or another meeting.
No problem. So in theory, you don't have to be part of a mediation company as such, but it just depends on some small details. So Avina, just send a message to us, and otherwise Robert will just give you a call and explain everything there. So we will be sharing a link to this webinar. That's one of the questions. So people who might have joined in a little later, or who perhaps missed some things. So some people were struggling with unstable internet connections. We will be sharing the link, so you can just view it back. So that's fine. You can always just rehash a part that might be unclear to you. The video test, so the skills assessment for mediation. How do we handle that, Theresa?
Sorry, just repeat that quickly.
So how do we handle? So someone asked, do you need a video skills test for associate registration?
No,
so in that case, we don't.
No, you don't. For associate level though, you need to do a knowledge test, and that's an online theoretical test. So that's the one that I mentioned, where you need to do. It will be based on the information that or the course material, depending on where you did the course. So if you did it, for instance, in South Africa with Mediation Academy, the examination is all based on the course material. It's normally about a 60-minute examination. It's all online. It all depends on which academy or which training provider you did your course with, but there's no role plays required or skills test required to become an associate on our side. What your your training provider requires might be different. The training provider, in any case, there's a lot of role plays, but that's not part of what we look at for associates.
Okay. So Melissa asks, is there going to be a webinar on Rule 41A, which I think was introduced sometime in 2020 in South Africa? So in general, because it's also a more general question on what we're going to do webinars, what we really want to hear from is we want to hear from you about webinars. So if you have an interesting topic or you want to host one where you are a panelist and you want to explain something, perhaps something that's worked with you for dealing with the coronavirus, for example, then send us a mail. Because in all honesty, we want to host as many webinars as we can because we think there are a host of interesting topics. So this one, for example, changes in regulation for mediators is quite interesting to discuss, and I think many people will want some context and have questions about it. So what we also ask is if people want to participate in webinars, either whether it be on this subject, so that's for you, Melissa, or on other subjects, then just send us a mail because we really want to do as many of these as possible.
On Rule 41, yes, we are. The 13th of May, Melissa. Sorry, Giel doesn't have all the info yet because I haven't added it all yet. But we're doing one. Pierre Veldhuizen is going to be hosting it. He's of the Tribunal Commission. So he will be hosting it. It's a late afternoon one, 15:30 on the 13th of May. And I'll be adding that later today. But it's all on Rule 41 and the changes and how it's going to affect all of us.
And so we'll keep you updated about that. And again, if there's any other subjects, then please send us a mail. We're happy to host them. Henry, so it seems one or two people are struggling with their certificates. So one word of advice that I want to give is, because we send them digitally, they might be in a spam folder. And if you don't receive them within, for example, 5 working days after we've confirmed your certification, then just send us a mail and we'll resend the certificate. Because we send them online, sometimes they do get lost. That's just the nature of working with these type of tools. So it can happen. It doesn't happen often. But if it is taking more than, for example, 6 or 7 days, then just send Theresa an email because then she can just have a look at it. Okay. Might be an interesting topic for you, Theresa. How do we get other mediators to like your Facebook page and your website? So how do you kind of build a social media strategy? How do you work with that? Do you have any tips for that?
We're going to host a course, well, not a course, I must stop saying that, a webinar on social media as well as on public relations, also in the beginning of May, that will be able to tell you how to structure your things and what hashtags you should be using and how to put yourself out there to get yourself not only known in your own industry, but obviously also to clients. But I think what we should be doing in any case is, Robert he calls it the buddy system, whereby we actually start talking to each other, and we're going to have monthly meetings, also an idea of Robert, where anyone can log in and start talking. And I think we need to start supporting each other a lot more, especially in the mediation field. I'm finding that a lot of people are just working on doing their own thing and not really, they're not communicating with each other. It's very difficult. So I think we need to start breaking through those walls and start communicating with each other and start supporting each other, especially if you're in a commercial field, but you know someone's looking for a family law mediator, then contact someone. We've got them, So I think, Corin, if you can just be patient for another week or so, we've got someone that's an expert in those fields that are going to tell you what to do. And give you suggestions, and you can ask her all the questions in the world and she's open to answering them.
A question from Carlos. So if you pass the video assessment for associate level, do you need one again for full certification?
Yes, you will have to do another one for full certification, depending on when you upgrade. Am I right in saying that, Robert? Because if you do associate now and you only upgrade in 5 years, things might have changed.
Well, that's not quite how it is regulated now. If you pass a qualifying skills test, Nevertheless, where in your associate period, it's valid for your upgrade. That's how it is regulated now. It might be the case that for certain subscope, for example, if you want to become a court mediator, out of the subscope, we have extra requirements. But in general, nevertheless, the moment you do it, if you pass a qualifying skills test, it's valid for your upgrade to the full level.
Yeah, so one of the things definitely to add there is sometimes mediation courses, so the basic course mediation does video-like assessments. That might not necessarily be a qualifying skills test. So what I definitely check, Carlos, is if you did pass a video assessment, email Theresa with the situation, with specific information on your situation. And then what we can check is, for example, was it with an agency and was it a qualifying test in the way we mean test and assessment? So that's quite important. That's the only thing I think is important to add there.
Yes, it must be a recognized skills test. Yeah,
and it's quite quickly. If you just send an email with your situation, it's quite quick for us it's quite easy for us to just tell you that qualifies or it doesn't. And if you've done it, then you can. It's quite easy then to switch over to full status. So that is all the questions that we've received so far. So we're just going to quickly, in the meantime, start a quick poll about the webinar. So if you have any input to give, it'll pop up on your screen. We would really appreciate your feedback. After the poll, after you voted for the poll, because there's no more questions and we've done our presentations, we will start closing the webinar, so you can leave. If you have other questions, please feel free to ask them, because I see one person has another question, so we will still keep answering them in the meantime. But this is, to some extent, this is the end of the webinar. So thank you all for joining. We hope it was useful. If you have any other questions, please feel free to email us or call us. Otherwise, we hope to see you again in other webinars. And we thank you for joining us.
I see one open question, Giel.
Yeah, we'll just wait for a second for the poll to vote, and then yeah, we can answer in the meantime, because
is it the one Anine question?
Anine says she had a pre-submitted question.
Anine has a Karen has a baboon in her house. Okay, bye Karen. Yes, Giel will also Giel will add all the relevant email addresses and stuff now. And also my cell phone number, I really don't mind for that. Anine had an interesting question, and that was, and I mentioned it earlier on, and that is that when you do online mediation, you lose some of the senses in touch, feel, smell, getting a feeling of the people that you're dealing with. And she says, how would you handle a person that is actually stonewalling the mediation process and not working together? And that's what I think I need to get someone that's going to address and that's a lot more clued up than I am in addressing how we can streamline online mediations and help Anine in recognizing the stonewalling. Obviously, I'm sure you can recognize it. It's just the fact of how are you going to handle it when you're sitting in a room such as the one that we've got here in dealing with it. So yes, I'll find someone, Anine, even if that person can't do a webinar for you, I'll get someone to talk to you personally. But we are open to assist wherever we can. So if there's something that you really have a problem with, if I can't help or Robert can't help, then we'll find someone to help you with that. But we are getting someone to do specifically a webinar on online mediation, how to structure it, how to recognize certain problem areas and what to do about it. So that will also be in the next 2 weeks.
Good. I think in general, just reflecting, we've now done 2 of these webinars. They're really useful, and the first ones are just important for us also to get a grip on the tooling. So we obviously work with Zoom, and what we've really told agencies is, if you want us to host webinars for you, we will be willing to do that. So it's also important for us just to get used to it, but it's a super useful tool because I mean, everyone's asking questions. We can interact with you guys live. And even if you have big groups, you know, this is very manageable. Even, you know, when the situation with COVID-19 is ended, these are still, this is still a great format to stay in touch.
I think, as Robert said yesterday, I really think we will keep on doing it, having once a month, a certain set time. If you want to click in, you click in. If you don't want to, that's also fine. But just to maintain the contact and get it, it's very important for us that we know what you think and what you feel and what you need. We're not working in isolation. We don't want to work in isolation. We want to know exactly what you are thinking. As much as you need to know what your client is thinking, we need to know what you're thinking and what your needs are so that we can address it as well. So we appreciate the questions and the interaction because it makes it easier for us to move in directions and the right directions.
And I mean, look, that's one of the things we want to do. Like you said, Theresa, just have 1 hour, for example, a month where we just have, you know, like doctors we do, like a doctor would have. You have just a walk-in speaking hour. So if you have a question, you just join the webinar, ask your question, and see what other questions. And in this sense, you can really feed off each other because you always see with these webinars is that one person asks a question, and then it slowly starts snowballing into 2, 4, 8, and you know now we're at like 25 questions, 27 questions. So you know, it's fun. It's good to see. Okay, so I'm gonna end the poll. Good. So if no one else has any other questions, we thank everyone for those who submitted the poll. So we really appreciate all that feedback because we also definitely want to improve ourselves. Thank you all for joining us. We're gonna end.
There's another question.
Post that now. We'll just have one question. Yeah, so we're just going to run through the last questions and then we're just going to start slowly closing off the webinar. To conclude, I will post the links to the webinars where you can sign up, the one for Saturday and the one for next week, as well as the page where we just we'll keep posting webinars, so check into that regularly. I'll post that in the chat.
And also link to our Facebook and LinkedIn. The information will be on that as well.
Yeah, so definitely. And if you are registered with ADR, we will obviously send you a mail once every couple of weeks with just the updates. And so in the chat, you will now find the LinkedIn, Facebook, and then you can just go there and keep updated. ADR Register.
Oh, there's my dog. Hello, everyone. Sorry.
Okay. So in the chat is now the link to the webinars, to the Facebook, to LinkedIn. So you can just check back in there, and we'll keep that updated. And yeah, we hope to see you again during the other webinars. And if you have any ideas, obviously, please feel free to send them. So thanks everyone for joining.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.
Bye.